At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Gentlemen, whether you're 2 dates in or going 20 years strong, a Valentine's Day gift is always a good idea, even if you let the kiddos pick it out. Just hit the Walmart app and get it delivered in an hour with express delivery. Sound good? Great.
Subject to availability. Restrictions and fees apply.
And away we go, episode 1258 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. 1 month from today, March 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern is the start of the NFL's 2026-2027 league year. That's when NFL teams officially can begin signing external free agents with expiring contracts, and is when NFL teams officially can begin executing trades of players. And this is the day after not one, not two, but 3 press conferences at the Washington Commanders team facility, what officially is Big Bear.ai Performance Center at Commanders Park in Ashburn, Virginia. And this ended up being a longer affair than had been anticipated. The Commanders this past Thursday morning had announced media availabilities for 3 people the following Tuesday afternoon. Head coach Dan Quinn at 1, David Blough at 1:20 for his introductory press conference as the team's offensive coordinator, and Durante Jones at 1:40 for his introductory press conference as the team's defensive coordinator. Well, as we know, Dan Quinn likes to talk. His press conference on Tuesday afternoon lasted for about 28 and a half minutes. Then we got Durante Jones. He likes to talk. His press conference on Tuesday afternoon lasted for about 31 minutes. And then we got David Blough. His press conference on Tuesday afternoon lasted for about 24 and a half minutes. And so a lot was said, but this was good. A lot of good, informative, significant stuff was said. A lot for us to discuss on the podcast. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, on which we talk Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year. So much was said on Tuesday afternoon that what I'm going to do is spend this episode of the podcast focusing on what was said regarding the offense, and then spend the next episode of the podcast, Thursday's show, on what was said regarding the defense. And so next segment, reaction to what Dan Quinn on Tuesday afternoon said about why the Commanders parted with offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury and offensive line coach Bobby Johnson, and analysis of Dan Quinn and David Blough on Tuesday afternoon, revealing a major change for quarterback Jayden Daniels in the Commanders offense. More under center snaps. The following segment, discussion of David Blough, of comments from Blough and Dan Quinn, including Blough's meteoric rise in coaching, his rapport with Jayden Daniels, and Daniels' role in the change at offensive coordinator. And also on the show, I'll talk college basketball. We on Tuesday night had wins for number 15 Virginia and George Washington, but a loss for George Mason. Before we get to feedback, the Commanders late Tuesday afternoon announced having signed punter Tress Way to a contract extension. This reportedly is a 1-year contract extension. He had been set to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason, but no surprise, he's been re-signed. The Redskins acquired Tress Way via claiming him off waivers from the Chicago Bears in August 2014. He has been Washington's #1 punter ever since, and he's coming off yet another good season. What was his age 35 season, was selected as the starting punter for the NFC for the Pro Bowl for his work in the 2025 regular season. You know, I wish that the Commanders had re-signed Way on a different day, because him being re-signed got overshadowed by these press conferences for Dan Quinn, David Blough, and Durante Jones. But Tress Way himself did a press conference on Tuesday evening. The opening exchange of the presser was this exchange between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Way.
So, I mean, as you get to this point in your career, what does it mean to still be able to have them still want you, to have them still bring you back like this?
Yeah, John, I honestly think you said it best just with the word want. I think I think when you play a position and whenever you have something to offer up to the team, it's just the coolest compliment for professional athlete, or I actually love how DQ always says it, professional competitor, that they want you. And I think just as I get older, the longer I've played, you just realize, like, I remember whenever I was first trying to crack the league and first trying to get in, and I'm just so grateful and so honored that I'm wanted by these guys. And I told DQ and AP, came up and gave me a hug, and bringing the kids a big hug. And I just said, man, I just have so much fun playing for you guys, and I'm just honored that you guys asked me to come back. So.
Yeah, Tress Way now set to be Washington's punter for a 13th consecutive season. Think about how many kickers Washington has had in recent years, and Tress Way now is set to be the team's punter for a 13th consecutive season. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Justin Goldberg on a certain irony with the Commanders in recent seasons, writes Justin. Hey, Al, I'm with you on not being out on Dan Quinn just yet, but I am tired of having defensive head coaches with awful defenses. It has been 6 years, Al. 6 years. 4 with Ron, and now 2 with DQ. As always, love the pod. Thank you very much for that, Justin. Washington has had a defensive-minded head coach for each of the last 6 seasons. Ron Rivera, 2020 through 2023. Dan Quinn, 2024 and 2025. And the defense has been bad in 4 of the 6 seasons. The only 2 good defenses were those for the 2020 and 2022 seasons. The 2021, 2023, 2024, and 2025 defenses were all bad to varying degrees. A truth about the NFL is that defensive-minded head coaches do not necessarily have better defenses than offensive-minded head coaches have. This is a really interesting phenomenon, but it's true. Here were the top 10 teams in the NFL in total defense per DVOA for the 2025 regular season. Number 1, the Seattle Seahawks. Number 2, the Houston Texans. Number 3, the Minnesota Vikings. Number 4, the Los Angeles Rams. Number 5, the Denver Broncos. Number 6, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 7, the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 8, the Cleveland Browns. Number 9, the Detroit Lions. And number 10, the Los Angeles Chargers. 8 of the 10 teams have/had offensive-minded head coaches. The Vikings, Kevin O'Connell. The Rams, Sean McVay. The Broncos, Sean Payton. The Jaguars, Liam Cohen. The Eagles, Nick Sirianni. The Browns had Kevin Stefanski. The Lions, Dan Campbell. And the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh. How about that? 8 of the 10 head coaches for the top 10 teams in the NFL in total defense per DVOA for the 2025 regular season were head coaches with primarily offensive backgrounds, were offensive-minded head coaches. The idea that a defensive-minded head coach makes for a better defense is wrong. Email from John Granlund on where we are with the big 4 pro sports teams of Washington, D.C., the Commanders, the Nationals, the Capitals, and the Wizards. Writes John, Al, when was the last time all 4 teams were this bad? The Caps are usually at least respectable. Thank you for the email, John. So the Caps right now are respectable, but of course, the Commanders are coming off a terrible season. The Nats are coming off 6 consecutive bad seasons, and the Wizards are in the midst of tanking, though the belief is that the tanking will end at the end of this season. I mean, we did just have all 4 teams being mediocre to bad at the same time. 2022-2023, the Commanders were mediocre in their 2022 season and were horrendous in their 2023 season. The Nats were really bad in their 2022 and 2023 seasons. The Caps missed the playoffs for their 2022-2023 season, and the Wizards were bad in their 2022-2023 season. So I would say that 2022-2023 was the last time that things were this bad, and quite possibly worse. We'll see what happens with the Caps this season. The last truly great calendar year in Washington, D.C. sports was 2012. Yeah, you got to go all the way back to 2012. The Redskins won the NFC East. The Nationals won the National League East. The Capitals made the Stanley Cup playoffs and won a playoff series. The Wizards were bad, but the Skins, Nats, and Caps all did very well in the calendar year of 2012. Well, what the Commanders, Nats, Caps, and Wizards are doing hopefully will deliver long-term success. Short-term thinking does not deliver long-term results. Good process does. Science does, especially when it comes to skincare. And the best product for skincare is OneSkin. OneSkin formulas are powered by the OS1 peptide, a patented peptide built on longevity science proven to target aging at the cellular level. OneSkin supports the cellular repair that keeps your skin looking and feeling better as you get older. This is not about adding extra steps to your routine. No, this is about swapping in smarter ones. Born from over 10 years of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the cells that cause the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. And for a limited time, OneSkin is making it even easier to stay consistent with up to 30% off your first 3 subscription orders when you use the promo code GALDY at oneskin.co/GALDY. That's oneskin.co/GALDY and use the promo code GALDY. oneskin.co/GALDY, up to 30% off with the promo code GALDY. And after your purchase, you'll be asked where you heard about OneSkin. Please support our show and say that Al Galdi sent you.
With Car Guru's Discover, you can skip the filters and describe what you're looking for in your own words. Simply type what you want, and Car Guru's Discover instantly surfaces real listings that match your exact needs. It's no wonder Car Guru's is the #1 most visited car shopping site according to SimilarWeb's estimated traffic data. Buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.com. cargurus.com.
If you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. So we on Tuesday afternoon had a press conference for Washington Commanders head coach Dan Quinn, had an introductory press conference for the team's new offensive coordinator David Blough, and had an introductory press conference for the team's new defensive coordinator Durante Jones. The Commanders on January 10th announced having promoted assistant quarterbacks coach David Blough to offensive coordinator. The team on January 30th announced having hired Minnesota Vikings defensive passing game coordinator / defensive backs coach Durante Jones as defensive coordinator. Those had been the only officially announced hirings by the team in terms of its coaching staff revamp this offseason. But the Commanders on Tuesday afternoon did announce 3 more hirings, all of which had been previously reported. DJ Williams as quarterbacks coach, Danny Etling as assistant quarterbacks coach, and Eric Henderson as defensive line coach / defensive run game coordinator. By the way, we on this past Friday's show, episode 1255, got excellent insight on Eric Henderson from Los Angeles Rams insider and USC football insider Greg Beacham of the Associated Press. Additionally, Dan Quinn, during his press conference on Tuesday afternoon, revealed 2 other coaching staff changes. Wes Welker is going from being a personnel assistant who had been focusing on defense and special teams to being an offensive assistant. And William Gay is going from assistant defensive backs coach to cornerbacks coach. And Quinn, during his presser, confirmed that the Commanders have reassigned Daryl Tapp from defensive line coach to assistant defensive line coach. And then the Commanders on Tuesday evening officially announced various other coaching staff news, including Anthony Lynn having gone from run game coordinator / running backs coach to just running backs coach, Jesse Madden having gone from offensive quality control coach to assistant running backs coach, and Tom Donatel having gone from defensive backs coach to defensive backs / safeties coach. William Gay has gone from assistant defensive backs coach to defensive backs / cornerbacks coach. Next segment, we'll focus on David Blough himself, his rapport with quarterback Jayden Daniels, and more. This segment, we focus on why the team parted with offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury and the change that is coming for the team's offense. Kliff Kingsbury, over his 2 seasons as Commanders offensive coordinator, did a good job. The Commanders, for the 2024 regular season, had the following offensive rankings. Number 6 in the NFL in total offense in terms of DVOA. Number 4 4 in the NFL in total offense in terms of expected points added per play per RBSDM.com. Number 10 in the NFL in yards per play. And the team in the postseason for the 2024 season went 2-1 with all 3 games on the road and made the NFC Championship game. The Commanders, for their injury-ravaged 2025 regular season, had the following offensive rankings. Number 23 out of 32 NFL teams in total offense in terms of DVOA, but number 16 in the NFL in total offense in terms of expected points added per play per RBSDM.com. Number 12 in the NFL in yards per play, and number 4 in the NFL in red zone touchdown scoring percentage. They're with Kliff Kingsbury as Commanders offensive coordinator. We're nits to pick. There always are with offensive coordinators, but the general feeling was that he, over his 2 seasons as the team's offensive coordinator, had done well. I certainly felt and feel that he, over his 2 seasons as the team's offensive coordinator, did well. It was not until the day before the Commanders' final game in the 2025 regular season that we had any kind of reporting that the team might part with Kingsbury. And then 3 days later, he was gone. The Commanders on January 6th parted with offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury, offensive line coach Bobby Johnson, and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. Tuesday afternoon did not just feature the introductory press conference for David Blough as the team's offensive coordinator. Tuesday afternoon also marked the first time that Dan Quinn did a session with reporters since the team parted with Kingsbury. What happened with Kingsbury? Why the change? The first 3 exchanges of Dan Quinn's press conference on Tuesday afternoon were about why the change was made. Here were 2 exchanges between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Quinn. And then you hear a follow-up exchange between Commanders insider Nikki Javala of The Athletic and Quinn.
Again, why did you want to make the change on offense from Kliff?
Yeah, changes are hard. You know, as you're going through, you build these relationships that are strong, John, with people and players. And so when there's time for change, those are difficult conversations, discussions. But at the end, you just keep going back. What's the best thing for the team moving forward? What's the best thing for them? And so if I put it into those spaces, what do we need to do moving forward? What things need to change? And how would we go about that? Then you look at it from that lens. And that's certainly what I had to do because it's a difficult part of it. You build bonds with coaches and with players. And so when you move on from them, it's challenging. But that's also, I recognize the seat that I'm in to put us in the very best spot that we can do those.
And how much of that was it shaped by, just you want to take the offense in a different direction than maybe what matched up with what Kliff wanted to do?
Yeah, and so those are conversations we have all year long about where it goes, and I've got tons of respect for both Kliff and for Joe, what they do, how they go about it. These guys worked incredibly hard, over the 2 years here. So I thought it was time for change, a new vision of how we'd want to go about it, John, and so that's what we did.
At what point in the season did you know that maybe we need to try something new going forward? Yeah,
this was a difficult one all the way through. Season-wise, up, down, it started that way. Good game, bad game, good game, bad game, long slide in the middle of it. So when you're assessing everything, you want to look first, all right, what do I need to do differently? How do I go about changing it? And so it's constant assessment to say where we're at, how we do things. But ultimately, when you're in the week-to-week of it, and you guys are here with me every week thinking about the game and how we go about winning it, at the end is when it comes to light the most.
So the reporting had been that Dan Quinn parted with Kliff Kingsbury over an amicable disagreement on the direction of the offense. Well, that reporting seemingly was confirmed on Tuesday afternoon, not only by what Quinn said in what I just played, but also by Quinn flat out saying that the team is going to have more under center snaps. What many had suspected is in fact the case. Quinn wants more under center snaps for Jayden Daniels. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between Commanders insider J.P. Findley of NBC4 and Dan Quinn.
Hey, Dan, you've talked about your vision, and it comes from you down to the coordinators. What is your vision for the offense? And kind of what's your role in implementing that vision for the offense?
Yeah, and it'll look different, JP, in some ways as we're still kind of building some of the things together. But this is going to be like an aggressive, balanced attack, but like that will probably have more under center than we have in the past. that's also for run action and play passes to generate explosive plays. And so we're going to try to feature every part of Jayden in the way that makes him unique and special. But also the run action and the runs and the play action game that goes with it. Those are all things to generate explosive plays. I think, as like David was speaking on earlier, when we're here a year from now and we talk about the generating the explosive plays, those are a few of the things that's going to come to mind when we're talking about our offense.
So, Dan Quinn on the Commanders' offense with David Blough as offensive coordinator versus with Kliff Kingsbury as offensive coordinator. Quote, it'll look different some, end quote. Dan Quinn, quote, will probably have more under center than we have in the past, end quote. Again, what many had suspected is in fact the case. Quinn wants more under center snaps for Jayden Daniels, and it would seem that that was part of the disconnect between Quinn and Kingsbury, as Kingsbury is not a huge fan of the under center snap. And so now Quinn is going with Blough. How you like me now, as LL Cool J said back in the day. Yeah, that's what Dan Quinn is saying to Kliff Kingsbury. You don't want to do more under center? Okay, Blough, how you like me now? Yeah, there you go. Look, the whole under center versus shotgun / pistol debate can be very overrated. Great offense in the NFL can happen in a variety of ways. Great offense in the NFL can happen via the quarterback being under center. Great offense in the NFL can happen via the quarterback being in the shotgun. Great offense in the NFL can happen via the quarterback being in the pistol. An advantage of the shotgun and pistol formations over the under center formation is that the shotgun and pistol formations present the quarterback as a run threat more than the under center formation does, because it is out of the shotgun and pistol formations that you run the read option. Never mind whether you actually run the read option. Just having an ultra-mobile quarterback like Jayden Daniels in the shotgun or pistol makes the defense think that you might be running the read option. This is a big reason for why Robert Griffin III was so good as a rookie quarterback for the Redskins in the 2012 season. This is a big reason for why Jayden Daniels was so good as a rookie quarterback for the Commanders in the 2024 season. But it would seem that the Commanders plan on having less designed and option runs for Daniels in order to keep him healthy. And there are benefits to operating under center. Play action under center has been shown to be more credible and effective than play action out of the shotgun / pistol. There's also this. Some of the best offenses in the NFL in the 2025 season had their quarterbacks operating from under center a bunch. The Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams, the Buffalo Bills, the San Francisco 49ers, the New England Patriots. These were some of the best offenses in the NFL during the 2025 regular season. Each of these offenses utilized under center formations a bunch. Operating under center is not a requirement for offensive success, but also operating under center is not some antiquated notion. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between David Aldridge of The Athletic and David Blough.
Hey, Coach. One thing Dan mentioned was that he anticipates Jayden will be under center a little bit more next year. I wonder why you thought that was important going forward.
Yeah, I think, it opens up, right, some different schemes in the run game, some things that I believe in. It opens up different play actions and keepers and getting them on the perimeter in different ways. I think there's a level of communication that happens under center. I think there's different ways to go about things, and it's something that I'm convicted about, that with his skill set, his fundamentals, the things that we absolutely loved about him when he first got here still ring true, and as we grow and develop. I think a lot of teams that you saw even playing deep into the playoffs, it was something that was a foundation of what they did, and I think, that is something that we will like to implement with him and get him in that position.
All right. Now, Jayden Daniels' quarterback experience overwhelmingly is operating at a shotgun / pistol and not under center. How much of a transition for Daniels will be him operating more under center? We on Tuesday afternoon had this back and forth between Mitch Tischler of Monumental Sports Network and David Blough.
Hey, David, for a quarterback that has played primarily in pistol and shotgun through his college and NFL career, what kind of challenges will going under center kind of provide, and what does that kind of learning curve look like for Jayden?
From like a 30,000 foot level, it's when we teach quarterback play, not to dive too far deep into it, it's simple things of taking a 7-step drop instead of taking a 5-step drop, or taking a 7-step instead of a 3, and so there's a lot, just basic fundamentals that go into that. But even as the course of the last couple weeks of the season went on, he got more experience at it with a little bit of a transition from our offense. With Josh playing at the end of the year, and even on, when there were scout team reps to be had, when we were working it, this has been a work in progress all the way through. So it won't be completely new to him. He's got a ton of time with coaches, that he's worked with in California to kind of grow in that area, and we'll hit the ground running on that.
Those last couple of weeks when he was not on IR but practicing but not playing, were you guys getting in work along those lines? Were you starting to kind of work on kind of specific things with him that you kind of thought he could improve on?
I think it starts with any player in that situation. It's growth areas. So that was one area we saw for growth, and so as much as we could, we worked it for his intentional development plan. And I think we saw it even in the 4 weeks at the end there that he wasn't playing, 5 weeks.
And so right there was an interesting item. It would seem via what we just heard that Jayden Daniels, during the time in which he was shut down for the rest of the 2025 regular season but was still practicing, was working on some of what David Blough will have Daniels doing. That would indicate that Dan Quinn's decision to move on from Kliff Kingsbury happened a while ago, and not just at the end of the team season. Also, Dan Quinn on Tuesday afternoon did address why the team parted with offensive line coach Bobby Johnson. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between Mitch Tischler and Quinn.
What went into moving on from Bobby Johnson, and then kind of what are you hoping that you see from Darnell Stapleton as he steps in on the offensive line?
I think being around Darnell over the last 2 years, he actually interned with us as a Bill Walsh Fellow years back. He had, like DJ, had always been somebody on the radar, and so to see his development over the last 2 years, I knew that he was ready for a significant role. He worked closely with Bobby and Shane Tobe, who were here, obviously with the other members of the offensive staff. So it was really just like a new vision of how we want to go do it. That's really what it came down to.
Dan Quinn, quote, "A new vision of how we want to go do it," end quote. A new vision for the offense. Let us hope that the vision is the right vision. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. It will fight for you and win for you. Lead attorney Chris Nace is a big Commanders fan and a big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. Just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C., and West Virginia. We always hope that everything is going well for you, but if you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. More now on the Washington Commanders' new offensive coordinator, David Blough, off his introductory press conference on Tuesday afternoon and off head coach Dan Quinn's press conference on Tuesday afternoon. What a rise for David Blough. Blough was a quarterback for Purdue for the 2014 through 2018 seasons. He entered the NFL in May 2019 as an undrafted free agent with the Cleveland Browns. He, over his time in the NFL, the 2019 through 2023 seasons, had the following notable tenures with offensive coaches. Blough was on the Minnesota Vikings practice squad during the 2022 season, working with Vikings head coach and former Redskins offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell. The Arizona Cardinals on December 14th, 2022, announced having signed Blough off the Vikings practice squad. He was the Cardinals starting quarterback for their final 2 games in the 2022 regular season. The Cardinals head coach at the time was Kliff Kingsbury, who was fired by the Cardinals in January 2023. So his last 2 games as Cardinals head coach were quarterbacked by David Blough. And Blough was on the Detroit Lions practice squad during the 2023 season, working with then Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. And then Blough came to the Commanders. The team on February 15th, 2024, announced the hiring of Blough as assistant quarterbacks coach, and the team on January 10th, 2026, announced having promoted Blough to offensive coordinator. We on Tuesday afternoon had this back and forth between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and David Blough, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange between Commanders insider Nikki Javala of The Athletic and Blough.
So, how surprised are you to be sitting in this role? You flash back to like November. It's kind of a quick rise to get to this spot. What do you think?
Sure. I think, I don't know, surprised. You feel like every step along the way you prepare for these opportunities, and surprised may not be the exact feeling. It might be grateful, incredibly encouraged and motivated based on, what I've kind of seen over the past month of DQ's belief and building me up, man. From the first day I got here, I have felt a very specific development plan for me, whether it's getting to call plays in practice at different points along the way, whether it's getting to present in front of the team opportunities like that. So, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but incredibly grateful and thankful to be here.
Obviously, you were a coach for 2 years, but you have the playing experience. So how much did playing in the different offenses, just playing quarterback in the NFL, prepare you to be in this spot at this point?
Sure. I think I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of great coaches, every step of the way, whether it was high school, whether it was college, whether it was in the NFL. A lot of the men that I've looked up to in my life have been fantastic coaches, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a connector, whether it's a developer. And so, once I got to the NFL level as a player, that flame was kind of lit for me, that I wanted to be the guy, as close as you can to calling a play in the huddle, getting to call the plays into the quarterback is the next closest thing as one of the play callers. So I've always had aspirations for this and really excited to get it going.
I know you've said that you've sort of always wanted to be a coach after your playing days. Was play calling a piece that was always really important to you? And, when did it become a...
Oh, that's a great question. I've just seen the difference it can make. I've seen the difference at different stops in my career of getting to see different styles, different play callers, different innovators, and it's really important. When you're creating a game plan, when you're developing players, putting them in the best position to succeed, that, how important the play calling role is. So kind of like I mentioned for John, like it's as close as you can get to calling the play in the huddle and actually being the guy receiving the snap, and now developing that and helping get our group to the best collective outcome is what really excites me.
Okay, so play calling. David Blough has never been a regular offensive play caller at any level of football, but now he is Commanders' offensive coordinator, is the team's offensive play caller for a crucial upcoming season, right? A season that could make or break Dan Quinn as head coach, a season that is the final season before quarterback Jayden Daniels is contract extension eligible in the 2027 offseason. I am a big believer in those who can do. In other words, if David Blough is who we hope he is, then he should be just fine at calling plays. But again, he has never been a regular offensive play caller at any level of football. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between Nikki Javala and Dan Quinn.
What gives you the confidence that David Blough is ready for this as a play caller?
Yeah. I know he hasn't been coaching a long time, but he has Obviously when you're the backup quarterback at different things, you had different experiences, much like a younger coach coming up. But I can also speak from experience that, we haven't called plays, you've been waiting for it, you've been doing it, and in the practices, you'll probably find some spaces where do we go to have more call it periods to go, but we'll be really intentional about that. Some of the benefits of me going through this experience, as a head coach for the second time, I learned some lessons to say, all right, when there's talented space and you can find that, certainly going through Atlanta and some of the coaches that were part of that staff, have we done things different? You might have. So I think what you want to find out from yourself is, are you growing? Are you learning? And this guy's absolutely ready to go attack. And so it was evident to see that. But when you're around somebody a lot, you know that too.
A big thing with play calling, of course, is that it is an in-the-moment activity. Game planning is important, but game planning is done over the course of a week and not in an actual game situation. Play calling is happening in the high-pressure environment that is an NFL game. How will David Blough handle that? We, on Tuesday afternoon, had this exchange between Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack and Dan Quinn.
Hey, Dan, obviously being around David Blough the last few years, you've gotten a feel for how he understands offense. But there's a difference between scheme and the play calling, because play calling is under the pressure. How do you know that a guy can do that? Do you go through any kind of simulations in advance? How do you know that they can do it under the pressure?
Yep, you do that, Ben. And certainly playing quarterback in the National Football League helps, into that space. You're not calling your own plays like back in the old days, maybe in the huddles, that some of the guys did. But there's obviously lots of training that goes into that, and you want to simulate, just like you had said, with video into the games. But David has a very clear vision of what and how that it's going to look and play out. That was very evident, in our interview with him. And going into it, we're just going to give him the best support we can, Ben, maybe less than I initially thought of how many call-its and those kind of things we need. But as far as the leading and the calling, those two go hand in hand. But the leading part that I've seen so far, it's all tracking and everything that you'd like it to be.
And that David Blough has played quarterback at both the collegiate and NFL levels should help when it comes to the pressure of play calling. There's also this. David Blough is responsible for one of the most memorable plays in recent Washington history. December 22nd, 2024, a 36-33 Commanders win over the Philadelphia Eagles at Northwest Stadium to snap the Eagles' 10-game winning streak. The Commanders overcame a 27-14 fourth-quarter deficit, won the fourth quarter 22-6. On a 2nd and goal at the 9, Jayden Daniels had a 9-yard shotgun touchdown pass to receiver Jamison Crowder with 6 seconds left in the fourth quarter for a 34-33 Commanders lead. That play was a David Blough play. We, on Tuesday afternoon, had this exchange between David Aldridge of The Athletic and David Blough.
You've been credited with calling the shot to Crowder to beat the Eagles in 24, and I just wonder whether it was the obvious film work you did, the study you did, the personnel you knew, understood, time, score, everything that led you to believe that shot can work.
Sure. There's so much that goes into one play of say you get 65 plays in a game, and that was a situation that I had been a part of previously in a different organization, that a play that I had strong conviction about in April of that year, in May and June. There were different experiences for Jayden along the way that, he didn't read it exactly how we taught it the first time. Then he learned from it the second time. Then it came up a different way in practice that week. And then, the practice execution became the game reality from that week. And he has a really kind of, he's got a gift. When you teach him something the first time, it just absorbs in there. So, I wouldn't say that was just me or any part of that. There's a whole collective group that goes into kind of creating one play that comes up on a Sunday, Thursday, Monday, so.
You can tell by listening to David Blough why he is so well regarded. Smart, thoughtful, attention to detail, not unlike Jayden Daniels. I mean, a lot of similarities between these two in terms of each guy's demeanor and intellect and passion for football. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between ABC 7 sports director Scott Abraham and David Blough.
David, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
A big opportunity for you. I know you've developed a really good rapport and relationship with Jayden over the last couple of years. You've challenged him. I'm curious, specifically Jayden, how's he made you better? Maybe how has he challenged you?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it. He's got an uncanny ability to just absorb anything you share with him one time. So the challenge to that is, okay, how can we stack on that the second time? Where can we take his teaching and not assume that, he's already reached his capacity to learn? How can we continue to build and take it from, when he first got here in 2024, the 101 level classes, and now, how do we take him to every time he takes the field Sunday, he's beating people between his ears and at the highest level, just able to put our offense in the best position possible with his brain. And I think that challenge of giving him new content, new things to learn, new things to understand about playing quarterback in the NFL has been really stimulating for myself, for the other offensive coaches, Brian Johnson, DJ Williams, Danny. When we think about what it can be for him, it's how do we take him to that next level?
All right. David Blough is young. He's just 30. Was born on July 31st, 1995. He is the youngest person to be hired as Washington offensive coordinator since the Redskins in January 2014 announced having promoted 28-year-old tight ends coach Sean McVay to offensive coordinator. That worked out pretty well. Is Blough another McVay? Well, Blough, like McVay, has worked with a lot of good offensive coaches, Kevin O'Connell, Kliff Kingsbury, Ben Johnson. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between Nikki Javala and David Blough.
Then having, like you said, been with so many coaches, how do you envision your offense and how much will you take from them as you sort of build this out?
I think every step along the way, I've gotten to learn something. And as we go forward, our staff, our collective staff of 12 or 13 coaches, we get to kind of build it up from the studs around what Jayden and Terry and Laramie and all these guys do really well to, put them in the best position to be successful. And that's what's exciting with our staff, even pulling from all these different experiences, new coaches coming in who have backed up Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and coaches who have been around Drew Brees and developed young quarterbacks, and being able to pull the collective so that we can all collaborate together and make this the best possible thing is what's really stimulating right now.
And, of course, a big part of all of this is Jayden Daniels. All-time great 2024 rookie season, injury-ruined 2025 season. Blough has a strong rapport with Daniels. We on Tuesday afternoon had this back and forth between Commanders insider Liam Griffin of the Washington Times and David Blough.
Coach, you've obviously worked with Jayden since he got here, and you guys have a pretty tight-knit relationship. How would you describe your connection with him that you've built over the last 2 years, and what was his reaction when you got this role?
Yeah, I think, that's one of the best parts for me is we have 2 years' worth of relationships already built up. There's already deposits in that bank that, we can pull from. If we're talking about, hey, what does he do well? What are we building now? A lot of those conversations have been had over the last 2 years. So it's not starting exactly from square one. And I think as much as we can, we're going to keep some continuity of the way he's called things, and then we got to build on it. And I'm really excited to just continue to challenge him, pull the best out of what he does and help him grow, because we all know as he goes, this group will go, and it's really an exciting challenge and opportunity to just get him to his best.
And you mentioned taking a lot from all the coaches that you've worked with, and you've already discussed having more under center, some things that are going to deviate from what this offense has been like the past 2 years. Sure. What's the biggest thing that you learned from working with Kliff Kingsbury?
I think it's hard to ignore how much stress, no huddle the tempo element puts on a defense. And Kliff was incredibly gracious to me, just allowing me into his brain of how he thinks, how he sees the game, and what he has seen work. And so the last 2 years were incredibly valuable for me to see how he approached game planning, how he went about teaching concepts, and he was incredibly gracious. So I'm really thankful I got that experience with him as a player and a coach.
Yeah, David Blough both played for and coached under Kliff Kingsbury. The thinking when the Commanders on January 6th parted with Kingsbury was that Blough might go wherever Kingsbury went. Instead, Blough ended up replacing Kingsbury. To what extent, if at all, did Jayden Daniels have a say in what happened at offensive coordinator? We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between Liam Griffin and Dan Quinn.
Coach, when looking at hiring David Blough, how important was it for you guys to have a sense of continuity when considering Jayden's development and those other guys on the offense?
Yeah, Jayden's a big part of our thinking in all the things that we do. He wasn't a part of the staff selection, but he drives a lot of the thinking and how we can feature him and where it goes. And so having the ability to connect with him, that's certainly a big deal for us. David, amongst others in the offensive staff, have had big roles here with Jayden, and it wasn't the deciding factor, but it certainly was a good factor.
And I like what Dan Quinn said there about Jayden Daniels. Quote, Jayden's a big part of our thinking in all the things that we do, end quote. But Quinn added that Daniels, quote, wasn't a part of the staff selection, end quote. Nor should he have been. What Quinn said right there is exactly what should be the case. Daniels is a big part of the team's thinking, but isn't having actual input in the team's transactions. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between Scott Abraham and Dan Quinn.
Hey, Dan, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I know you just said Jayden didn't have any impact on the staff changes, but I'm curious if you had any sort of conversation with Jayden about moving on from Kliff and then eventually promoting David, and what that conversation was like and why maybe Jayden feels comfortable that David was promoted.
Yeah. When I said he wasn't involved, I should clarify, I also wanted to make sure I was also filling him in so he didn't hear externally, what and why. And we've got a good relationship in that way. So I wanted him to hear from me before he heard from anyone else, what we were doing and why we were doing it. And then the same thing on the hiring process of who and why. And so those are important things that I did want to have those conversations with him. He puts a lot into it, as you guys all know from being around him. And so I love getting his feedback. I love engaging with him. But as far as the vision of it, that had to come from me.
Yes, it did. Whether Dan Quinn is the Commanders' head coach beyond the 2026 season may well be determined by whether David Blough works out as offensive coordinator. I did want to hit on the Commanders' new quarterbacks coach, DJ Williams. It was nearly a month ago, January 14th, that we had reports that the Commanders were hiring Atlanta Falcons quarterbacks coach DJ Williams as Commanders quarterbacks coach. The team on Tuesday afternoon officially announced the hiring. DJ Williams, of course, the son of Doug Williams, who was Redskins quarterback, of course, was the MVP of Super Bowl 22, still works for the team. Doug Williams is the Commanders' senior advisor to the general manager. DJ Williams was a quarterback for Grambling State for the 2011 through 2014 seasons, spent 5 seasons, 2019 through 2023, as an offensive assistant for the New Orleans Saints. And DJ Williams then spent 2 seasons with the Falcons, served as offensive assistant / assistant quarterbacks coach for the Falcons for the 2024 season, and served as quarterbacks coach for the Falcons for the 2025 season. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange with Dan Quinn.
Dan, with the DJ hire, obviously a cool story right off the bat with father and son here in the building. But what did you like about DJ? What he did in Atlanta? Did Doug have any influence over the?
Yeah, I'll tell you some good stories on these. I've known DJ for a while, dating back to times in Atlanta. He was in New Orleans, so I had a chance to initially get to know him then. And he's always been somebody that I've kind of kept my eye on about what he's doing and where he's at. And so had a chance to also visit with Raheem about, where he was and his growth there. And it just came across so strongly, to everybody that I spoke with about him, about what he's doing and where he's headed and the influence that he has. I didn't involve Doug at all. And quite honestly, I was first nervous to even bring it up to say, what if he doesn't get it and how would that go? And I'm so glad I didn't listen to that response, because I remember getting off the Zoom the first time. I said, holy shit, man, he was excellent. And so we interviewed, some more people, and I went down to Doug's office and said, hey, man, we hired a quarterback coach, and I think you know him. And so it was a very cool moment about that. But he and I didn't discuss him going. I'm certain he was a good recruiter on the other side of it, but it was a cool thing. But it was almost I wanted the separation, not the connection. I knew that part would take care of itself.
So how about that? Doug Williams, at least according to Dan Quinn, was not at all involved in the Commanders hiring DJ Williams as quarterback's coach. I like that was the case. By the way, we on episode 1242 of this podcast got good insight on DJ Williams in speaking with Falcons insider D. Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And let's talk college basketball. Number 15, Virginia, on Tuesday night turned what would have been a bad loss into a nice win. The Cavaliers in the 2025-2026 regular season improved to 21-3 overall, including 10-2 in the ACC, with a 61-58 win at Florida State, which for this regular season now is just 4-7 in the ACC. This win tied Ryan Odom with Jeff Jones for the most wins by a UVA men's basketball head coach in his first regular season as UVA men's basketball head coach. UVA overcame a 9-point second half deficit. The Cavs in the second half were down by 9 points at 54-45, then won the rest of the game 16-4, and the key to the win was defense. UVA's defense again was very good. The Wahoos held FSU to just 6 for 33 on threes and just 12 for 29 on twos. So the Hoos did allow FSU to have 22 free throw attempts, but FSU went just 16 for 22 on free throws. So UVA won despite its offense not being good. The Cavs went just 10 for 33 on threes, just 13 for 28 on twos, and just 5 for 8 on free throws, and committed 14 turnovers. UVA's leading scorer was 6'3" North Dakota State transfer Jakari White. He, in 21 minutes, 4 seconds off the bench, had 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists versus 3 turnovers, went 5 for 9 on threes and 2 for 2 on twos. Did not attempt a free throw, but he went 5 for 9 on threes. The rest of UVA went just 5 for 24 on threes. Next up for Virginia, a game against Ohio State at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee, in the Nashville Hoop Showdown on Saturday night at 8. A second loss in 3 games for George Mason. The Patriots in this regular season fell to 21-4 overall, including 9-3 in the A-10, with an 82-70 loss at Richmond on Tuesday night. Mason never held a lead, trailed by as many as 26 points. That deficit was in the second half. The Patriots' offense was really bad. They went just 4 for 17 on threes, just 19 for 39 on twos, and just 20 for 30 on free throws, and had just 9 assists versus 15 turnovers. Next up for George Mason at George Washington Friday night at 7. And speaking of George Washington, its 4-game losing streak is over. The Colonials in this regular season improved to 14-11 overall, including 5-7 in the A-10, with a 75-70 win over Rhode Island at the Charles E. Smith Center in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday night. GW won the first half 34-18, lost the second half 52-41, but held on for the win. The Colonials, in fact, never trailed in the game. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday show, episode 1259, will provide you with more on the Washington Commanders. Also on Thursday's show, I'll talk Washington Wizards and college basketball. The Wizards are at the Cleveland Cavaliers Wednesday night at 7 in the Wizards' final game before the 2026 NBA All-Star break. Maryland is home to Iowa Wednesday evening at 6. Virginia Tech is at number 20 Clemson Wednesday night at 7, and VCU is at LaSalle Wednesday evening at 6:30. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
We'll probably have more under center than we have in the past. That's also for run action and play passes to generate explosive plays. And so we're going to try to feature every part of Jayden in the way that makes him unique and special.